Ladies and gentlemen, uh, fellow NFT enthusiasts, esteemed guests, welcome to our panel discussion today. My name is Ulaşcan Deniz Genç. I am the co-founder of NFT Horizon, which is a global media brand and also NFT calendar service provider, which you should check. It's an everyday website. And today we have an exceptional panelist, but unfortunately, Mr. Kasim is not with us today, and there Mr. Steve with us today. So before jumping into the discussion directly, I want to give some short warm-up session to introduce some introduction session to learn about you more, Mr. Good. So go ahead, it's on you.
Oh, it's on me. Well, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dreams Quest. We started developing our project back in 2020. More research and development side of things then. And then in 2021, we officially started going out and bringing the project to market in terms of raising funds, getting listed on KuCoin. But actually building a game is, as you know, pretty complex. It's still building. We've assembled an incredible team. We have a team of 50 people. We built our own studio from the ground up. Oh, thank you. So we've got people doing 2D art, 3D art, animation, visual effects, Unity game developers, and blockchain game developers. And other than just building a game, we recognized that there had to be something we had to do that would be a bit groundbreaking for the industry. So we decided to push boundaries. One of the boundaries we felt was a huge limitation for gaming was being able to play on a mobile phone, but also have your assets on chain. And we looked at a lot of the mobile games and what they're doing and how they're building, and what we saw was that in many cases they have a coin and the coin is just used as a coin, but then you have your game and it's a game, but there's no connection between the two. And we thought that if we're actually going to cross the chasm and build a proper Web 2 game that players could play, but we want to give people self-custody, ownership of their assets, be able to play the game, and we didn't want to have the barrier of the transaction verification process of confirmations for every time you do an action.
It's hurdle, right?
It's painful, right? Because every time you do a transaction, you have to confirm, and you have to confirm, and you have to confirm. So we had to find a way to solve two problems. One was full ownership and actually three problems. Full ownership and self-custody of assets. The second was, how do you make assets change dynamically as they change in a game? Because when you're a gamer and you're playing games, you'll upgrade a weapon and the weapon changes. We need to reflect that in real time. And the third was, how do we enable the player to continuously play without confirmations? So we set that out as kind of our mission. We have to solve all three of these at the same time, which is why it's taken us 18 months to solve it. But we actually have working prototypes now of it, and we're running alpha tests on it, as well as everything else that goes on with gameplay and inventory. So that just gives kind of a flavor of the Web 2, Web 3 quest that we set ourselves out to challenge ourselves to fix. But actually, when you look at the bigger picture of what we're building, it's not just about gaming. It's about creating a whole suite of content, mythology, assets that are stories that you can use for just about anything. So over the course of the last 2 years, we've had some Hollywood producers join our team. Hollywood writers have joined our team. A notable composer who just won a Grammy a couple weeks ago joined our team, and he's been producing a song for us. So it's kind of like you realize that gaming is one part of an entire ecosystem of metaverse, because there's also film, there's TV, there's music, there's books, and there's many things that content and story can be used to create what you can imagine in your imagination, that you could, where could you go, what could you do, what could you experience. So we started with one little thing, and it's turned into something much more, let's say, visionary for the whole team. So it's been a real journey to try to work out how to get all of these things built without overdoing it at the early stages. We have to just stay focused and build. But yeah, that's kind of been a short version of our whole journey over the last,
Actually, in these circumstances, we can say that with NFTs, it is only up to your imagination, right?
It is. Yeah, I mean, so when you actually look at what a lot of projects are trying to do, they get singularly focused on one thing. Like Bored Ape, it's just about having, the apes. There's no particular utility for them, but If you think about when you create art and you create content, you want to be able to sometimes save that content or art. And so that's, whether it's concept art or it's a collectible item, they don't have to be in-game items to be items that you use. They just need to be items that you can own and hold and trade later on. And then you begin to realize that it's not about just collectible items that you make one-off, limited editions. It can be concept art, but it can also be music. And sometimes people want to have early samples of the music because it shows the history of what a company has built. And I think if you look back at companies like Roxio that makes Angry Birds, or Star Wars and the whole collection of Star Wars, or Fortnite, all of these games have a history. And in that history, getting the earliest access to the earliest or most, first versions of items has a value. So it's not to say we're in that space now. We just recognize that everything we create and that we generate has a potential value to people if they actually want to hold and collect these items. So we treat that as like one half of the world of NFT. And the other half of the NFT world is in-game assets. But then when you look at in-game assets, you think, well, what is an in-game asset? Well, it could be something that's a weapon. It could be armor, or it could be jewelry. And jewelry, interestingly enough, could then turn into merchandise. So can boots and clothing. And we have some female artists on our team who are incredible and been drawing clothing. And we're like, this is perfect for Halloween. This is like, you want to get dressed up and you want to dress up like a character. Then you can actually go from NFT to physical item as well. But then you also have items that are not just in-game items, but that are potentially like vouchers. So if you take an example of a game like Path of Exile. In Path of Exile, if you have a limited amount of inventory slots, the way that you increase the inventory slots is you buy inventory in-game on mobile phone or on desktop. So why not do the same thing with NFT, where you buy an item and it's a burnable item, it's a consumable item. So then you have basically the split between things that are collectible and things that are usable. Some of the usable items can be dynamically changing. Some of them are fixed and never change. And some of them you use them once and then after you use them and consume them, they're no longer there. All of that, at the end, because it's a mobile phone game, you need to make sure there's notifications on top of it all. And that's where you get into this, oh my God, I have an on-chain transaction. How do I build a mobile notification? And this is like, next generation stuff we're building now. Because it just enables you to say, oh, okay, I'm on a marketplace, I'm trying to buy an item. How do I get this item in my hands? I'm auctioning to buy it, and you win the auction. But when you're not on chain, you don't know if you won or not. You're checking and checking and checking. Why not just send them a notification, pops up on their phone? Hey, this new item's shown up, it's in your account. All you have to do is click here and start playing. But it's on chain, you can go check it, but now it's also in game as an inventory item, and they're happening in the background. It's all passive transactions that are what makes the whole thing work.
So we can say that as many people think that NFTs is just a static item, but it is not actually.
It's not static, no.
Yes, it both have mutable and immutable data on it. So
correct.
Yes, you can change some data. You can use it like a dynamic structure.
I think of. Let me think of. I'll reframe how I think NFTs should be viewed. It's like a four boxes. There's static and dynamic, and then there's staked or unstaked. And now you can pick which box you want to work in. So by staked, I mean like you're locking the item. For us, the way we're treating it is that if you want to synchronize between what's happening on a database or a game and what's happening on chain, the only way to do that is the item has to be staked into the game or locked. That way you can synchronize it to what's happening on a database and happening on chain. Because if you remove an item from your game, it needs to also be removed from chain, because otherwise you're out of sync. So synchronization is everything. So that locking, unlocking mechanism or staking, unstaking mechanism is a key factor. But then, as you say, the dynamic aspect of it is, I have a weapon, I upgrade the weapon. It needs to increase. So that's the dynamic NFT concept that Chainlink talked about. And we partnered with Chainlink and we worked with them quite closely to develop our dynamic NFT structure. So now you end up with locked or unlocked items and dynamically changing or statically defined items. So some items, you get them, they don't ever change. Other items, you get them and they can change over time. And that cool thing is, like, think about it like from a gamer's perspective. I'm playing a game. I want to create the coolest weapon. I want my weapon to be upgraded to such a way that no one else has a weapon like mine. That's what creates value for player. But when you grind and play a typical Web 2 game, a desktop game, a PlayStation game, you don't own it. You worked and you worked and you worked and you worked to create these amazing weapons, and you can show your friends and talk about it and you look at it on screen, but you don't actually get to own it. So now we just go one step further and say, hey, you own that. It's yours. You want to sell it, sell it. And that's the value proposition that I think people have been looking for in gaming. So what we're trying to do is just analyze all of the different things people want from a gaming perspective, and then look at all the things that have to be built and try to marry the two together. It's not an easy, challenge.
So before all these topics, actually, I want to discuss the history. I mean, in the couple of years ago, I mean, what will happen? I mean, NFTs become mainstream, right?
Yeah.
And in 2022, we see some roller coaster movement. NFTs become popular, and then some downgrade.
You mean bull and bear market?
Yes, of course.
The hype and then the...
Actually, yes, what will happen? I mean,
what
will happen?
In all honesty, I hope that the NFT market is not treated the way the rest of the bull market and bear market works, these 4-year cycles of Bitcoin. Because NFTs actually don't need to trade that way. They really should be treated as utility for the games or the ecosystems they support. And the upward and downward movement is unfortunately driven by traders who are just speculating and hyping on the value of an asset. And of course, what happens in bear markets is the tokens all go down in value, the NFTs go down in value, and then they stop trading, they stop speculating, the NFT trade volume drops significantly, and then it flips the other way. And we saw that with CryptoKitties, if you remember back in, was it 2017? CryptoKitties came out, and it just wiped out the whole Ethereum network. You couldn't transact anything. It was taking hours for a single transaction to go through. It's like, I'm just trying to send you some Ether, and I can't because I'm stuck because CryptoKitties is taking the network, right? So that was during a bull market. And then what happened? Well, the bear market came, and no one was playing CryptoKitties anymore. And that, we need to get beyond that, because they're two different, I think they're two different things happening at the same time. Trading, crypto coins, making money, that's one thing. But NFT, I think, has a different kind of intrinsic value, because what you get and the value you get from the hours you put into playing a game should be reflected in the value of that item and how powerful or how useful that item is. And if you look at traditional gaming, there's no ups and downs of the value of the assets you have there in theory, because I put in the hours, I have a really cool asset, other people want it, they just can't buy it. So I kind of feel like we're at this point where there needs to be this divide that takes place, but I don't know when that's going to occur, but that's what it feels like should happen.
Yes, exactly. So as we mentioned, I mean, NFTs have lots of value in it. So in this previous bull run for the NFTs, we see lots of digital collectibles, PFPs. I mean, what do you think for the upcoming period? I mean, do you think that people need to focus more real-world problems to solve them with NFTs rather than these digital collectibles? Yeah,
I think that, like I said, the Bored Ape is a good example of an item with no utility. It's just for fun, right?
But they have all the money now. They can put any utility.
Well, now like they could do something.
Other side,
right? Well, if you look at Sandbox, or you look at games like Across the Ages, they're building a lot more where there's a lot of assets that have value and use case within the games. So I think those are games that understand that a game is not just coin. Game is NFT that have different values and different propositions. And I like the Sandbox model because it's basically mirroring Minecraft. So you have all of these assets that are different characters that are running around, and you can own each character as an NFT asset. You can buy trees and rocks, and you can basically design your entire world, all of the things that make that world beautiful. And they sell, mountainscapes, and they sell trees and rocks and lakes and all sorts of stuff, and they're all NFTs. So in that sense, I think Sandbox was a good example of what you can do. We just need to see their game come out and become let's say, a more accessible game for creators to create games and for players to play. But I think theirs is a good example. Across the Ages has built a game where it's just all based on cards are NFT, but each card has a certain value based on how common the card is or how powerful the card is for when you're playing against an opponent. So if you go beyond gaming, I mean, why can't an NFT be used for anything? It could be a title deed to a property. It could be a voucher for discounts at a shop. I don't think there's any limitations. It's just a digital form of transaction. And it's only a question of whether it's a collectible item that has use, like multiple use cases, or is it an item that you use it once and then it's just like spent or burned. And I think that's just, that's up to people to design and build in these different ecosystems. But I think there's an unlimited number of things you can do. Even tickets to go to a concert, and after you go to the concert, you have a collectible item. It's the ticket from that concert.
Yes, exactly. And I want to also give one example.
Sure.
In the previous days, I talked with the ERC developer, the NFT standard developer, and he said that they are using this technology in the supply chain of the track authenticity of the medicine.
Oh, wow.
It will be everywhere, I guess, in the upcoming period. I mean, we will see more and more real world problem which is solved by this
If you
technology.
can mint real data and that data is on chain and is immutable, then it certainly beats all of this AI fakery that's happening now on the internet where we don't know true from false. So long as we know that the source of information where it came from is true and the data they've printed is true, we have immutable data on chain. So there's a real benefit then to chain to overcome all of this fake images, fake text, fake content that's coming out that AI can generate, where people are just doing it for fun right now. But when does fun become a problem is when you don't know if it's true or false anymore. And at least if, let's say, you use the medical example, if you're a doctor and you create some sort of prescription, well, why not use the NFT as the prescription itself, right? And then you have that and it's immutable, it's on chain, it could still be private, and it's only between you and the pharmacy and the doctor, but at least that way it's immutable, it can't be modified, can't be changed. So I agree with you. There's certainly a lot of potential use cases.
Maybe some regulative wall.
And if you guys get any good ideas from here, please take them and go for it. Yeah.
So I just want to turn back to Gamify.
Sure.
And as your main expertise. And in the Gamify, we see that different dominators, like Solana did a really good job in some period of time.
Yeah, they did.
And get some big portion on the market. And then Immutable partner with Polygon.
Yes.
I mean, we see lots of new players, and they are strong, they are big. And what do you think, who will dominate in the upcoming period, and what is your opinion in the Gamify?
It's as far as the chains go, it's an interesting question. So we've been doing a whole suite of research trying to figure out what chain would be the best chain for us to launch on, because we built everything smart contract wise on EVMs. So it doesn't matter what chain we run on. What we've discovered is there's probably about 5 or 6 new chains that have come out now that are either calling themselves layer 2.5 or layer 1 or layer 3, but inevitably they're all providing some sort of gasless environments, because they know that with gaming, the volume of transaction can be significantly high if players are playing very actively and they're getting assets and items and they want to own them. So there's certainly a recognition that there's a shift taking place. So it's hard for me to see who the winner is, because I'm trying to pick the winner for our infrastructure, and I can't see which chain is the chain for the future. Polygon is certainly one that could do it. But remember, if I'm providing the player with the ability to own the asset in the game and own it on chain without a confirmation, someone has to pay those gas fees. And right now it's not the player. That means if all that burden comes on us, we have to then be charging people some other way. That kind of takes away the feeling of it being free to play, because all of a sudden we have to charge people. So I don't want that to be the outcome. So we're challenged with the duality of wanting the game to be free to play, but wanting the players to own their assets for free. And there's someplace in the middle we'll find the truth. Either we go and build our own chain ourselves, which is what people have done, like Axie.
Or Gala Games.
Or Gala Games, yes. Exactly. Or Splinterlands has done something similar.
In Hive chain, yes.
Right. Or we have to do something else, like find a partner who recognizes that it's not about cost, it's about volume, and it's not about volume, it's about adoption. So certainly we're partners with Polygon. They invested in our project in the early stages, so that's a discussion we're having. We also listed our token on Binance Smart Chain, so we're talking to their team. And we've talked to a number of other chains, but most chains don't see that the volume, large volume would be a reason to discount the price, which I find interesting, because actually that's exactly how normal commercial markets work, is volume gets discounts. But in the blockchain world, all I hear is, good, give me more volume, we'll make more money. And I'm saying, yeah, who's paying for that? So we have some work to do still to, let's say, mature the commercial concepts so that people building games have more incentive to go there. Because right now, I think the biggest barrier to entry is the cost of gas fees.
Yes, and also lots of the game need to keep those free-to-play structure, because, Gamify is very critical for all blockchain ecosystem because it is very easy to onboard new people.
Yes.
I mean, because it is a game. I mean, and it is very easy to onboard new people. And free to play is a one way to do it with the games. But in the other side, there's a burden of the fee for the creators.
Yeah, and if you think about like, how do we bring new? This has always been my kind of my mission. Let's say, why did I get into crypto? And I liked it, and I said, what's my mission then being in this? Having come from 20 years in fintech and moving to crypto and seeing the amazing possibilities and hearing all of the fear, oh, but it's a scam, and oh, but everyone loses their money. And I say, wait. There has to be a better way to create adoption. Now, what if we can create games that allow people to play, and then they realize that, hey, I don't have to just be a Web 2 guy, I can be a Web 3 woman as well, and I can actually have my assets and own them and play them. There's no reason why we can't use gaming as a funnel to direct people into the Web 3 space. That's why we built all these interactions and integrations. But it takes a little bit of bravery to go down that path and try, and then recognizing that there's certain countries like the US or China who are very anti-crypto, not supporting ecosystem, not supporting growth, that we may have to restrict access to those countries for players, which frankly is quite sad because we want this to be a universal way of gaming and playing. But on the flip side, if we can get people to come into crypto because they like what they're doing and they say, well, I'm a gamer and wait, I can own my assets, then we're solving a problem. And for me, it's solving a problem because we're giving people more of a recognition that they can own assets, they can be in control of their own money, they don't have to rely on a centralized authority that holds your funds and says, sorry, we can't do withdrawals today because we're shutting down tomorrow. I mean, we've seen 3 or 4 banks in the US, well, 1 in Switzerland, and it creates huge risk on people. So for me, if we can find ways to kind of create that, cross that chasm or that make a bridge between the two to make it easy for people, that it makes it feel like it's easy, not hard, then we're achieving something. If it's so hard that you can't go across because it's too technical, it's scary, the apps don't work, then people won't come across. So we have to find ways to do that. That's our mission if we're going to be in crypto, I think, to make it easier for others to also participate.
Yes. And I am also curious about what is next. But before explaining what is next, I mean, I want to just wrap what is NFT in terms of as we talk. So actually, this is the phone, right? I mean, this is the cell phone. And we cannot call it is a scam, right? Actually, it is a technological device. I mean, NFTs is like that. I mean, it is a technology. And I mean, lots of the apps in it is a scam, for sure. And when first this technology created, there's more scam apps in it. And more the big players coming to this space, we see lots of great application of it. So those monkey pictures is just the application. The all art industry on this NFT space is just the application of it. So we will see more and more segments in the upcoming period. So what is your upcoming star segment in this space? I mean, it will be gamify again, or I mean, which segment do you think
where are we going to go?
Yes, actually, in the upcoming years, which area we will see the most pop-up of NFT technology?
Ooh,
it's a tricky question.
Yeah, it's because so many. I kind of feel like a lot of industries have already started to do something. I think that like the next mega trend has to be real estate with NFTs personally, but it comes with the risk because, for example, if you own the title deed to a property and it's an NFT and it sits in a wallet and your wallet gets hacked, do you still own the property if someone takes your title deed off you? So there's a risk-reward feeling I have about the real estate industry, but I feel like that's an industry that has some real potential. Certainly the medical industry, I can certainly imagine the possibilities of being able to use NFT as opposed to a piece of paper for transacting. So it's a digital form of a prescription, and once you use it, it's gone. I've spoken to people in the pharma industry before I started DreamsQuest, and it was actually interesting hearing the whole process flow of how data moves and how it moves between the HMOs, like the health providers, and the doctors, and the hospitals, and then the pharmacies. And there are people who just don't take their medicine even though they're given prescriptions. And right now, they're given money to go and get their prescription, but they don't use the money. They go and buy cigarettes or get alcohol and say, well, hey, can't blame them, right? So, I mean, the reality is they want to have ways of solving the problem of if you're going to be given a subscription and an amount of money to spend to use that subscription, why not tie the two together? So that's an industry, sector that I've seen people talk about in terms of a real world case. But, you look at big corporates, they're nowhere near solving business processes and solving real world problems at the level we're talking about right now. But there's lots of people out there trying. I just don't think it's reached the point where people are actually seeing it in real practice. And does it need to be an NFT, or could it just be a transaction? Could it be a coin? I mean, there's a number of different ways to implement. But I think there's a lot of, I'm not an industry sector in all sectors, so I can't comment on all of the sectors. I can just imagine the possibilities. And I think that's the fun part, right? Is just dream up something, put it on the whiteboard. Hey, this is kind of interesting. Does anyone do this? No. Oh, well, we should try. Why not? Right?
Yes. And actually, those are the today topics for us. And I mean, we don't know, do we have any more time to discuss? Maybe one final question.
Sure.
And I actually designed this question for the Mr. Kasim, but he's not here, so
okay.
we can use these tricky questions again
Yeah.
between us. So
Sure.
actually, I want to go back to history again. I mean, as we are in the fintech, I mean, in the financial area in here, so we saw that a big bubble of this digitalization in 2000, right? All the venture money flow in the digital space. There's a big spike on this area, and then suddenly a big bubble pop up, and we see that downgrade in a very sharp way.
You mean you're talking about the 2018 bear market, or are you talking about the
2001, yes.
2022, 2021, 2022 bear market?
Actually, 2001, as we see the Nasdaq hit very low and didn't recover like 15 years.
Yeah.
Yes. And we are actually like seeing the same in here in the blockchain space. I mean, all this venture money flow in this area. I mean, what do you opinion on this area? I mean,
in terms of like the future of VC money coming in,
yes,
it's cycle. I've seen it now. This is the third bear market I'm watching, and each one seems to be just more money coming than the previous one. And I think what I've seen is that a lot of the VCs, when they come in, they'll go in during the biggest parts of the bear market, funding all these projects. They make enough money, even on token listing and even in the first month or two when they're getting their coins. And yes, a lot of them got, I think, burned a little bit in 2021 with pouring in tons of money to too many projects all at once. And a lot of projects have unfortunately not made it this time. But those that have made their money, they're waiting for the next run. And I'm talking to VCs because a lot of the people that invested with us, I'm still talking to them and saying, hey, we're still alive, we're still here, here's what we're doing. And what's interesting is that they're right now, I would say generally the feeling I'm getting is about 10% of the funds they're sitting on are being deployed for hot projects, and the rest they're waiting. If that's truly the case, and that's the existing pool of people that are out there, and there's always new people that come in later, then it's just a magnifier. Then I kind of think that 2023, 2024 bull run, which is I think probably already started, although people don't quite see it because they don't want to accept that, that 16K was the bottom, but probably was, and we're at 30, almost 30 and a half right now. I think that there's going to be a point where new projects start coming in again, and investors are going to start putting money in, and it's going to be another big bull run. And of course, like everything, it'll be a big spike, and then it's going to be like, okay, it's running, it's great, and oh my God, now it's dropping, and then it all stops again. They're just cycles. And unfortunately, with the Bitcoin halving every 4 years, we see these cycles that just go like this up and down really quickly. But I think that the next one's going to be bigger than the last, to be honest.
Okay, I guess we covered it in a great way.
Great.
So thank you, folks. And this is all for today.
Thank you.
And really appreciate it, Steve.
Thank you.